need to get Facebook up so I can see the comments.
Yeah, I've got your page up at the moment, so hopefully if I refresh that.
Aye, hopefully we'll get comments starting in a second. Mark, round 3 is watching. Hi, Mark. We've got 3 on board so far, 6, 7 climbing. Sorry, no show this morning, folks. I had a bit of an incident with the car while I was out and never made it back in time. Hi, Chris. Hi, Ali. Hi, Austin. Hi, Kirsty. Hi, Mark. Bob. Rosalind. Mags. What we got across here?
Sorry.
Okay, Eddie. Hi, Austin. Hi, Kirsty. Hi, Mark.
Sorry, just switching the sound off.
Aye, me. Oh, we're starting to get people flying in the door now. We'll get 22 here on YouTube and 25 on Facebook at the moment.
Hi, guys.
Hello, baby bump. You still not been delivered yet? Aye, guys. So this afternoon, folks, we're going to have a wee natter about the trade unions and the strikes.
Yep.
And what we think really needs to happen to sort this government and bring it down. We maybe talk a wee bit about the interruption of First Ministers a day, because it brings us on to something that we've been talking about before, and we'll probably end up talking about the Americanisation of UK football, UK politics. Sorry. Actually, I was actually going to use a football analogy in my programme today to describe the way things have become down that road. You know, it's a bit like Celtic and Rangers, the Labour and the Tory party, and their followers are basically football thugs. You know, it's basically I'm blue and I'm red, and that's all there is down that road.
So anyway,
apparently you're looking better, David, according to Patricia.
Yes. The doc said to me the last time I was there, put a stethoscope on my back, all over my back, and said it was a lady. She couldn't find any indication of my pneumonia, but it was because they had to use 2 antibiotics on me. It was quite a bad one, and therefore it would take about 6 weeks for me to get back up to speed again. So fair enough. I'm having good days and bad days. What the hell? I'm well used to that.
Afternoon, John. So the trade union movement at the moment is the only real opposition to the government of Westminster.
Mm-hmm.
Starmers know it.
Yeah.
The SNP are just too little to be it.
Well, I did notice Mr. Sweet, one of the MPs, one of the Labour MPs, did say that he was happy that he joined one of the
picket lines.
Picket lines, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And so they're not all following Starmer's diktat, are they?
No, it's only the front bench. He's not allowed to go into the picket line now.
Yeah.
But Starmer's position here is a disgrace.
Yeah.
And the trade unions should just tell Labour, your days of getting money off yours are over.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But
and more and more trade unions are becoming unaffiliated from the Labour Party.
Yeah.
That's why I'm running about the business community begging billionaires to back Labour.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that thing that Sky has been doing about the Westminster accounts,
yep,
that's been particularly painful for a few of the front bench. Yeah,
and Labour front bench as well as the Tory bench.
80%,
80% of them taking the extra money for extra jobs and put the money out as are Tories. But I mean, there's a big hitter for Labour in there, David Lammy.
Yeah.
And I heard Starmer on a defending Lammy. You know?
Yeah.
Where
Well, I mean,
Palmer's shouting he'll ban certain second jobs, Lammy's got a job in the press, so he's not going to ban that particular second job because it advertised the Labour Party.
yeah, that's right. You know, I had a perfectly good comment put up on a similar type post the other day there about that. And you know, I'm sorry to the lady that I had a go at. She mentioned about Philippa Whitford, who does the work on breast cancer and all the rest of it, right? Yeah, of course. That is one exception that should be made, is if somebody does a life-saving job and gives up their own time, not Westminster time, but their own time to do that, right? But when you talk about David Lammy, he's blooming running a radio show. You know, what the hell? What people should do is they should remove his first job and let him get on with his second job.
Yep.
So he can be on LBC as much as he wants.
That's fine. LBC are paying him 220,000 a year.
Correct.
What do you want to be an MP for?
Correct.
He's done his stint.
Absolutely.
I like Lammy as an MP, but you know, it just seems to be a bit hypocritical.
Yes, totally. Political extra. The Russians have donated 2.5 million to the Tories. I think they've donated a lot more than that.
We'll get Davies. She stopped her subs going to the.
I wonder what Lord Lebedev of Siberia donated.
Aye. Apparently there's a GRA protest going on at Holyrood today, so that's probably what the disruption was at Holyrood.
To be honest with you, it's like I know that the Westminster and all the ones that the cuckoos in the nest, as you call, want to keep this thing going, but it's done. And as far as that's concerned, if they come out and they overturn Holyrood on it and kill it, then that's another matter. But they haven't done that yet. Right.
Dean says, what's Dross's second job? MP or linesman? Well done, Dean. I still think it's hypocritical.
Yeah. Yeah, so to be honest with you, anybody that comes out and criticises the SNP for the GRA thing, right now, all they're doing is playing into the hands of those who want Westminster to win in all things. So I think you need to get...
The bill's been passed by Holyrood.
Yeah.
And it wasn't passed by the SNP, it was passed by all the chamber. I think the only people who disagreed with it were the Tories and Bloc.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this went across the Lib Dems, the Greens, the SNP and the Labour Party. There were 7 abstentions in the SNP and 1 resignation, 2 resignations for junior minister offices.
Yeah.
It might not be popular with everybody. We've spoken about this. It isn't popular with everybody. But this is supposed to be a democracy. When they did the public consultations on this and went through the court cases on it and things like that, they amended it to put protections in. It's quite a complicated piece of legislation when you get right down to it. Whether Westminster wants to put the boot into it, well, they're going to do that anyway, I think.
Yeah.
Under Section 35 of the Scotland Act, that allows them to overturn bills or block bills which are being proposed by the Scottish Parliament.
Yeah.
It stops them from getting royal assent.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to get particularly angry about anything to do with that, right? To be honest with you, it's been passed. The ones that didn't want it to pass, well, you know, in that situation, you've lost the argument. But I suppose if Westminster are going to come back and overturn it, then they've won. So, and therefore, it's maybe bad news for people that did need that legislation. I don't know.
Whether the legislation was necessary in the first place is another question. It's another matter, David. But what it does tell us is that the people who lose elections in Scotland have more influence than the people who win elections in Scotland. If that shower of shite and the cuckoos in the nest are going to get the House of Thieves and carpetbaggers to make us do what they want us to do, as opposed to what the people elected our politicians to do on a manifesto, then we've run into a real problem here in Scotland.
Yeah, but what we've got to see at the moment is it's all about denying democracy. At every turn, it's denying democracy, and
this brings us back to the situation with the trade unions.
Yeah, correct.
The trade unions are much more democratic than even the Westminster Parliament.
Yeah.
You know, they really are. And, you know, what we're needing is a general strike. Let's just bash and beat about the bush here.
Yeah.
I mean, you're listening to Mick Lynch in the Select Committee yesterday.
Yeah, I listened to him as well. The thing that came across was that regarding the real unions, right? They've done deals with all sorts of other employers and all the rest of it, all the way through the UK, right? And they've gone okay, and they've come to some kind of decision that they could go back to the members with, some kind of resolution they go back to the members with. Only the ones where the Department for Transport and Grant Shapps is involved are the ones where Grant Shapps is trying to create a Maggie in the Mines situation. And where we need to understand that's what the lead role of Grant Shapps is, who was a mega liar coming into Westminster, and now he's a mega liar now with regards to the actual movement in any kind of declaration of working with the miners, not working with the railway people, right? Mick Lynch is quite right when he said we're going to get nowhere, and they're as far away from any kind of resolution now as they were when they started off with this process.
This bill that they're putting through, the minimum service bill, I don't know why they're bothering. The European law reform bill will get battered through that parliament this year. The ERG, the whole point of Brexit was deregulation. The ERG have only got a short period of time left to drive through that deregulation of the labour markets, deregulation of our consumer rights. Yeah. These things, they're highly important, especially the consumer right one. You get sold a piece of junk, a substantive piece of junk, you won't have the right to redress. You know, or we always had the CE mark, and prior to the CE mark with the kite mark, and we always knew that the goods had to be a certain standard.
Yeah.
Before they could enter the UK marketplace. That will be gone. You'll get the cheapest crap for absolutely anywhere, and watch people get die the minute they plug shit in and things like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And we were discussing the new legislation that trying to run through Westminster.
Aye.
And the point of that is it's going to give the employers the heads up on what's happening.
Yep. You think about it. Look at the legislation put through by Labour under the Blair era on the conditions that have got to be met before strike action can be taken in the first place. It means that the employers have got to be given notice of the intention. Then they've got to have a ballot where they've got to get 70% or so you can agree with the strike. 70% of those participate in the ballot or something like that. Or is it 60%? Can't remember what it is. To actually be able to say, right, enough of your members have voted for a strike to have a strike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's all these hoops to go through, as you know, and that will give the employers the time to use the chitties that they're being told they can use. In other words, they decide what the minimum level of service has got to be provided, and then they will issue notices to those who must work, saying you're not entitled to go on strike, you must come in to maintain this minimum service. It basically makes strike action absolutely useless.
Yeah.
So if I'm a train operator and I decide I need 75% of my employees to run a minimum service, then only 25% of them go out to strike.
Now, the minimum service requirement
Yep.
is all your key workers, right? And it's the employer that sets that.
Well, it depends on the industry, David, because this legislation is only going to apply to 4 particular industries,
Yeah.
right? It's going to be health, transport, borders, and education.
Aye. Yeah.
Right.
So therefore, if the employer, let's say we've got a company, maybe a dozen people, right? And the employer actually writes to you and me and says, right, you David McGuinness and you David Milligan, you are key workers, and you're not allowed to go on strike. Yeah.
Yep.
If you do, you're going to get sacked.
Correct.
Okay. So therefore, let's say we get to the point where things are becoming inhuman, and all the rest of the workers want to go out and strike. Do we join them?
Can you get sacked?
Okay.
But it's conscription, basically.
That's right.
You're being denied the right to remove your labour.
Yeah.
That's conscription.
Yeah. So therefore, what's going to have to happen is wildcat action, where every single one of the employees of a particular setup go out the door at the same time.
You and I know that wildcat strikes were banned under Labour as well.
But they're not banned, David. They can't tell people not to do a thing. Yeah?
That's true. That's the reason why they're saying the legislation won't work. Yeah. Because people will just ignore it. If the whole way a workforce is out, is an employer going to sack the whole workforce?
Right. I mean, the employer could manage to sack all his key workers. But I tell you what, if I was in the situation of employing maybe 50 or 100 people, and I demark say 20 or 30 of them as key workers, that's what they are. If they go out the door, I'm stuffed.
Aye.
You know, and is the employer then going to say, all right, you're sacked? Is he hell or is she hell? Because they need the key workers. It's just an empty threat. That's all it is.
Quentin's making a good point across on Facebook, and that is, it's just a new method of breaking the strike. The government are now the scabs.
Yeah.
Aye.
Fair enough. Yes.
Well, this particular law is only going to apply to certain sectors, George. So the biggest change we've had so far was set by P&O. And I've predicted that this year the GPO, or BT as it's now called, and the post office will probably pull a stunt just like P&O.
Yeah.
You know, because their employees are unhappy. These two big multinationals, private multinationals as they are now, are no willing to come to an agreement with their employees.
Yeah, but
it'll be sack and hire back. It'll be a sack and hire back on a lesser contract.
Yeah, but BT effectively have already done that. They actually brought in an outside force. It was your the crew that I got tied up with, the Ashbournes, that became the BT. What's it called now? What's on the side of the van?
Open Reach.
That's an outside company. That's detached from BT.
But that was a Monopolies Commission that made them high behalf of a separate business.
Basically, at the start, the people that were employed, I don't know about them now, but the people that were employed were just gangers. They were people that pulled cables down the streets, right? So, and then they started bringing their workforce up. But BT engineers, the proper BT engineers that they'd spent all that money on educating and all the rest of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're gone.
They hired and refired them on a lesser contract. That's right, so they did. I put that up because it's an important part of this new legislation. Trade unions could be sued for taking strike action.
Well, I have to say, who's got the biggest balls? The government or the unions?
It's at this point the TUC should be stepping in and Paul Novak.
Right.
And he's already fired a warning shot across the government's bows. You know, he's already, and the government know that if there's a general strike, they're coming down. That was Paul Novak's point.
Yeah.
You know, that was his warning shot.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't behave themselves, there's going to be a general strike here.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come to the table, there's probably going to be a general strike here. And they know that's going to bring the government down.
Most important thing to put across is we live in hope that a general strike is going to be called. If it's called, we need I'll use an old phrase here, we need every man jack of you to actually put your support behind it and walk out that door with your jacket over your shoulder and say bye-bye, right? And join the blooming the line at the front gate and don't let anybody back in. Simple as that. Yeah.
Aye.
What goes out stays out.
Aye, well, you know, that's where the agency worker thing comes in. You know. And this bill is and the legislation that's been passed over the last few years. Where, you know, if you've got people out on strike, it's no legal for you to bring agency workers to fill the positions until the strike's over.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
We spoke about this before. I was calling them scabs and saying, but from their point of view, they're just people who are doing their luck, own an agency, and need work.
Yeah.
Because the gig economy is, you and I both know, David, it's a hard place to exist.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a skill that's particularly needed, like my ain or your ain. You know.
That's what I've lived now for. I can't even remember when I started with the gig economy, right? I didn't even know the gig economy existed. I was just like self-employed. So, like anybody else, there are good sides to it, there are bad sides to it, right? However, I might be self-employed, but I can join a trade union. Do you know that? I'm allowed.
I'm join a trade union.
Yeah.
Your employer doesn't have to need to recognise it. That's you in this case. So.
He said, I'm joining the trade union. No, you're no. No, I'm not allowing it. I am.
Where's Quentin's last comment? That was quite good and all. But Quentin's saying basically the same as us. Need to get out in a general strike.
Steve McNeil just popped up a wee thing there. Don't pop it up yet, but I'll just read it out. Nicola should go on strike to force a Scottish election.
Well, we were talking about that, so we may as well go on here. There was disruption in the Parliament today, so there was a suspension. But we had Dougie Ross and the other idiot ambulance chasing as usual. Right? You know, Glasgow's just declared an emergency going to Glasgow and quite helpful. And Dross is pontificating about it. First Minister stood up and read out a list of counties down south of here in that situation as well.
Yeah, that's right. Huh?
And he stood up and says, I don't believe that's disturbing, that's disgusting. But just because she was pointing out the state of things elsewhere, making it quite clear this isn't unique to Scotland, it's right across Europe, it's right across the world at this point in time. You know. But what did
you think the proper solution to the whole thing is? Come on then.
I've already told you, I think the solution to the whole situation we find ourselves in is a Scottish plebiscite election for independence. Now, it would be very easy for Nicola to date at this point in time because they're all belting her and our health minister. So, while they're doing it, she might as well just say, well, you know, the people think we're doing a good job even if you don't. You want to take it to the people. Watch them shut their gums because they know if they collapse Holyrood, the next election will be a plebiscite election on independence. You know.
You know, you can act as opposition, and you berate the First Minister on anything you want. But I think if the First Minister comes back and says, right, you want a challenge on it? Do you really want a challenge on this? You know, so there's, as far as I'm concerned, there's ways whereby the Scottish Parliament.
David Mark J. Smith he made a decent is making a decent point there. And I heard this brought up in the Scottish Parliament today, where Douglas Ross is now calling them nationalist MSPs. The presiding officer should have trounced the wee shite for that.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You want people who represent your nation in the national parliament. So everybody in that parliament should be a nationalist of sorts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody in that parliament should be working on behalf of the people of Scotland, whereas only the Greens and the SNP are working on behalf of the people of Scotland. You've got three parties working on behalf of their imperial masters in London.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a pretty difficult place to operate along there in Holyrood because of disruption being created by the cuckoos in the nest. You know?
No.
But you're absolutely right. She should be goading them there. As Angus Brendan McNeil said when he was on the show with us, it would be dead easy for Nicola to collapse our parliament right now and call a Scottish election. What she's going to do is call their bluff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So she wants to put a bit more backbone into it. Same and all when Sunak's up the next 2 days, want to sign the contracts for two green, what they're calling green free port sort of things. One just outside Edinburgh at Rosyth sort of thing, and the other one at the Cromarty Firth. They'll never happen. They'll never happen. And if the day happen before we're independent, the first thing we've got to do is get rid of them. You know? Even companies that are going to help us get to net zero still have to pay their bloody taxes.
Yes.
This idea of setting up economic zones where people don't pay proper tax in a system where you're highly reliant on tax to fund the system, there should be no such thing as a free port or a green port. And we know free ports don't work anyway. I believe the Cromarty was one up until 2012. It was the last one to shut.
I'm trying to remember all the free zones. What was they called?
Free ports.
It's called free ports. What they were called.
Aye, it was free ports they were called.
I know that when I lived in England, Teesside Airport, was set up like that. Yeah.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, it fell apart. It just fell apart.
They don't work. They've never worked. You know, they haven't worked anywhere in Europe either. This idea went to be out of Europe for free ports. Europe had free ports.
Yeah.
They didn't find them very successful either. Yeah. There are a few that are successful, which are small regions in certain countries. Spain and France, I think it is. Or Spain and Portugal, but they've never really worked.
Well, anyway, the top and bottom of what we're talking about today about the unions, right? It all comes back to this thing of civil disobedience.
You're right. Chartered cities. That's where we're heading here, by the way. That's the whole idea of setting up this mayoral system down there, and they're trying to set it up here. They want to put the cities into competition with each other, and considering we've only got an internal market to play against, that's all that's left is to set the cities against each other.
Yeah.
You know. Listen, they're already doing that, Junie, Kay. They are already trying to entice healthcare workers from England to Scotland because of better terms and conditions. But the most disturbing thing about what Brexit has created and the problems in the NHS is the UK itself is now importing medical staff from what they call red list countries. For any of you that don't know what a red list country is, it's an underdeveloped nation. And to take away what little healthcare workers they've got and bring them to our healthcare system is detrimental to the healthcare of that country. So you're not supposed to poach healthcare workers from a red list countries, but the UK is now employing healthcare workers from red list countries, and that's a bloody scandal on its own. So it is.
Yeah, I listened to a few of a few nurses and doctors, young doctors, and all the rest of it, and they were talking about Australia, going to Australia, saying that effectively they would get better pay and conditions, better climate, you know, and they're young enough to enjoy it, and they're off. You know, it's happening. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I mean, you're right, people do need to know what charter cities are. Basically, we already sort of have it. Each city is its own economy, you know. Chartered cities would be set up and to serve certain different parts of what little internal markets we've got left, and they'd be set in competition against each other. That's where your daughter ended up as a Eddie. I take it she ended up here as a healthcare worker.
Yeah.
There was a pre-port outside Blackpool, you're right. Encompassed quite an area there, Whitehaven and all that carry on. What else we got? Oh, aye, that's right. Apparently Sunak's going to be giving us a speech here in Scotland on the benefits of the union.
Is he?
Aye.
Well, that'll be good.
No doubt he'll be doing it for a quiet studio somewhere where nobody can get anywhere near him. I haven't seen an itinerary for him. It's not been published.
Let's have an all-points bulletin. Find Sunak.
Aye. Need a flying squad on it, guys. They need a mobile flying squad ready to move.
Yeah.
With the old flying pickets.
It's going on outside. Sunak out.
The minor strikes and the flying pickets. So, I'll see her singing a flying pickets song now. I now profess a better prospects overseas, Eddie. Aye. That's another big problem we're going to have here in the UK is something called a brain drain.
Yeah.
You know, prior to us joining the single market, folks, people got educated here and they pissed off to Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, and into Europe for better paying conditions. And that's what's going to happen again this time round. We're going to lose healthcare workers, we're going to lose teachers, we're going to lose university lecturers. They are going to fall with the research funding.
My mother cried her heart out every time one of the family headed for Canada, and that happened for a number of years. I was the only one that was left. I was the last one in the pack, you know. All the rest had gone to Canada, apart from a sister and brother still here, but still a lot of them went to Canada. And I can imagine that happened to a lot of families. Where the kids just got nothing here, let's go, you know, that's it. Off they went. And if it gets too bad, that's precisely what's going to happen again.
No, Junie, they didn't see any value in real education. That's what made me piss myself laughing with Sunak and his pledge to have kids study calculus until they were 18-year-old. What's the bloody point? When what is the point?
Can I tell you? Can I tell you?
For in 10 years time,
can I tell you, right? Kids don't like maths until they find out how to do it, right? Maths is easy. It's simple, David. It honestly is, right? It's just that it's blooming held up as being one of these difficult things that people do. It's easy. It's absolutely easy, right? And for Sunak to be saying that, right? He knows it's not going to happen. He knows it's totally cuts against the grain of every kid out there that dislikes mathematics, right? But to be honest with you, it's an easy subject.
No saying it's no, David. What I'm saying is there are kids who've got diverse interests and to be forced to keep that as a subject when they might want to study the arts of some sort, or they might want to get into a different science, or they might want to get into crafts, you know.
To to be honest with you, if somebody wants to be an artist, right, then mathematics and the formation of fractals gives you plenty of basic stuff that you can go after, right? Mathematics is in music, it's in art, it's painted art, graphic arts, and all the rest of it, right? So therefore, it's a marvelous thing to actually have. So please, if you've got kids that don't like mathematics, stick with them. No matter what Sunak says, Sunak's a bloody buffoon. He wouldn't know a blooming If one of his kids has got a problem with any subject, he can buy in blooming half a dozen people to blooming give them private tuition on it, right?
I do seen a couple of her kids are thinking about moving to Canada at the moment.
Yeah.
Everyone on your point about sounds like a ploy to raise the leaving age for schools. It's no. And kids in England stay at school until they're 18 anyway, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas up here you have the option of leaving at 16.
My kid's looking to stay on to 18 because of what she wants to do, but that's another matter.
Robert says arithmetic's what they really need to be learning. Other forms of calculus isn't really that important when it comes to the rest of their life, which is dealing with money, dealing with mortgages, dealing with insurances, dealing with rent and things like that. Dealing with your wage negotiations.
The biggest problem I see with them is the young ones that are working in the shops for a year. They need to bloody listen. There are times I've had the wrong stuff delivered to the front door just because they won't listen to what you're saying. Anyway, never mind.
Listen, if what I'm hearing and what I'm being told is true, and you know me, David, I'm very dubious about this sort of stuff, but I'm being told the kids have only got 10-minute attention spans because that's the longest a TikTok video can be. I don't believe it for 2 seconds, of course. Yeah. And Thomas MacArthur says he's got 10 fingers. It gets harder after that. Take your socks off, Thomas. So I know it's just pine the shit, guy. But I'm looking forward to Sunak being able to tell us what an actual benefit of this fucking union is.
Yeah, I know, but the horrible thing about mathematics is that in order for a parent to help their child, they end up having to go back through secondary education themselves in order to learn the bit that they've got to help their kid with, right? I'm pretty sure we've got better wit than that. We should be able to help the kids grasp the basic rules that they need to. Once you've learned the rules used in mathematics, it becomes easy, or it becomes easier, right?
Nice.
So if you've got kids that are struggling with mathematics, talk to their teachers and get every bit of help you possibly can, because mathematics, people look at it and they go, well, the hell am I going to use blooming calculus or whatever, or geometry or whatever outside school? As a matter of fact, you do use it.
Depending on your trade, depending on where it is you do.
Yeah.
And people subconsciously use geometry every day when working out, turning the corner in your car and things like that.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, the basics are very, very important, especially with arithmetic.
So if that's going to become his favourite thing that he's got, I don't give a shit. So the one thing I worry about is that people stand against it because Sunak's for it, right?
No, I'm not up the piss out for that reason. I'm not up the piss out because he's not going to fund education, but that's beside the point. I mean, you've got to remember, all he's doing is pulling the gimmicks, or doing the same things as the SNP.
Yeah.
In fact, he stood up with our health chat, with our on the health bill, on the health problem in England, doing that one, and it was their health secretary saying we're going to copy what the SNP are doing in Scotland.
Yeah.
in order to alleviate the problems in the English NHS. With one exception, they're going to outsource to the private sector.
Yeah.
You know, simple as that. But aye, Sunak's up here to open 2 green ports, or sign the deals with the First Minister for 2 green ports, they're calling them, instead of free ports. And all the industries that open up in these ports must use sustainable energy, or must be working towards using sustainable energy when they open on site. And that's what they're going to get their tax deductions for.
So let's look at that. How then does somewhere in Essex, a free port in Essex, manage to do that?
They don't. So you don't put a free port there.
Yeah, no. You're only talking about putting a free port where there's.
But you've got to remember, it's only here in Scotland that the Scottish administration are demanding that they're green ports. They're not demanding that in England.
England, yeah.
They're not demanding that in Wales.
Yeah.
It's only the Scottish government who are demanding that there are no free ports, they're green ports.
Yeah.
And they'll work on green technologies, and that includes running themselves. You know, that's the thing behind the green port instead of the free port. Maths teachers have little patience for people who do not get maths. I'm afraid, a long time since I was at school, but I found my maths teacher was extremely patient with us.
I've got one wee subject that I'd like to introduce to you all, right? Is watched a programme from BBC, believe it or not, featuring Martin Geisler.
Yeah, we don't watch the BBC here.
Hang on, let me finish. He did a programme on Who Owns Scotland, right? And to cut a long story short, you know, it was quite a good programme. It's quite interesting what he brought up, right? And there was this wee town of Huntly, which is 40 miles north of Aberdeen. And they were falling apart. The other shops were closing and the place was looking pretty run down, right? And what they did was they put together a little council of their own. And there was a farm that was coming up for sale. And the most important thing about this farm is it was one of the windiest places in that area, right? So what they did was they bought the farm between them and they put up wind turbines. And now they've got the situation where it's pulling them in something like £350,000 to put back into Huntly to get the thing back up running again, which I think was a marvellous idea. And it's something that I would commend to anybody. You know, I mean, I live in an area where we've got Golden Hill behind us. I know it's a big public park, but it's basically just for blooming dogs to shite in, right? So we could manage to get a few wind turbines up there, right? And start feeding some money into the Hardgate and all the rest of it. Get the place blooming back up running again. I like that. I like the idea of that.
Right, invest in your own community. Thomas MacArthur says the blue ports will get upset if it's all green. Okay, absolutely mental. So I don't support the idea of tax-free zones. Everybody should pay their bloody taxes.
Yeah. The reason why we have taxes is so we've got all this infrastructure in it. We've got an NHS, and we've got ambulance service, we've got fire brigade. Who goes in fire? There's a fire brigade. There's police there to make sure people aren't burgling your houses or beating you up in the street and all the rest of it, right? So therefore, tax is a good thing. If it comes to the point where a lot of people are getting off with paying tax and you're still having to pay it, I do object to that. I really, really do object to that. And that's happening a lot nowadays, where people are moving the tax, the money that they would pay tax on offshore to a tax haven. Could be just the Isle of Man or whatever, right? And they're getting away with paying the taxes to keep their stuff running. No wonder the NHS in England's falling apart. The Health and Social Care Bill 2012, add on to that, there's bugger old tax being coming in.
What are you talking about? The Health and Social Care Bill 2012 didn't apply to Scotland.
I know it doesn't, but I'm saying down in England. I'm on about England.
Aye. So where we are? We're going to move on to the end of democracy down that road, basically, or the downscaling of democracy. When we looked at Sunak and his 5 pledges, we looked at Starmer and his pissing in the wind. And then yesterday we had Sunak give us our priorities, the people's priority speech. What did you make of that, David?
Honestly, I'm just disgusted at the whole thing. I'm now at a stage where I'm going, chaos is the new normal. That's it. It's just chaos. That's all it is. The entire thing coming from both sides. At least when we looked at the end of John Major moving on to Tony Blair, we thought, oh, great, there's a chance here now, it'll be sensible. And it wasn't.
No.
This time we can see it coming. We can see it coming. What's going to happen is the Tories are going to be out. It's going to be Labour in. Labour are going to be a bloody mess. They won't last a full term. I don't think they'll last a full term.
No, I think these speeches by Sunak and his pledges, I think that's an election pitch.
Yeah.
I think Tory strategists have already decided it's time to ditch this one and drop it in Labour's lap. Because let's face it, there's nothing Labour could do about the situation the Tories have created.
That's right.
We took going back into the single market and the customs union. Starmer says he won't do that. So he says there's no way back.
Let me stop you there, right? Even if Starmer said to the EU, we want back in, please. What do you think the 27 members of the EU are going to say to that?
They're going to say fuck off.
Correct.
Let's face it, Britain was a destructive influence while it was in the EU.
Correct.
Always demanding to be left out of certain, especially when it came to banking regulations. The reason why we had that bloody referendum, as you know, is David Cameron was there begging them not to include the UK in the anti-tax avoidance directive, which went through the European Parliament. It's time to scrap PMQs because it's not just there's never a question answered, Margaret. It's just a Punch and Judy's show.
Yeah, that's right.
It is. It's by the way, it's got that bad. It looks as if it's stage managed.
Yeah.
It's got that bad. It's looking as if it's scripted.
Yeah.
No, the English don't seem to realise they're losing their democracy. We've already lost ours. That's what the candle's burning for.
No, I would really, really like to know what the rules are going into PMQs, right? Whether it's a situation that is something I don't know and I've never bothered looking at, right? Is the Prime Minister forearmed of all the questions that are going to be asked by all the people that are going to be asking questions? Do they have to give them written confirmation of the question they're going to ask?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think so.
Yeah,
I think he gets a basic gist of what Starmer's 5 questions are going to be. He gets a basic gist of what the SNP's couple of questions are going to be.
Yeah, so that means he's got a chance to actually think through what he's going to say to bat them away. Simple as that, you know.
Aye, but as I say, it's become prescriptive. I'm watching First Ministers and all, got it up in the corner for writing the Morris show. Watching First Ministers a day, it's just getting ridiculous and hot. Ross is a bloody outrage.
Yeah.
Poverty prize no any better. You know.
Mr. E says there's a brief put through the speaker. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. As I say, I think the 2 main opposition parties, you'll definitely get briefed on that. Whether they get briefed on what other members who've been selected to ask questions when they ask, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But which brings us on to time.
Aaron Douglas says on Facebook, Charles III of Scotland, or Scotland food banks today. Yeah, sorry. He's come looking at the food banks.
Who's this, Prince Charles?
well, no Prince Charles now, is it? It's King Charles now, isn't it? Yeah, King
Well, I don't
Charles.
know what to call him. You know, I don't really give a damn what they call him.
I know,
But if he's up here looking at food banks, then it's time for people to protest.
yeah. It's just wrong. It's just wrong.
Same with politicians. Politicians show up at a food bank. The people who run the food bank should chase them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did see that, Phil. Dross calling for Humza Yousaf to resign. They're all calling for Humza to resign. Who's calling for Steve Barker to resign? The English Health Minister. The one that refuses to get into a room with the nurses and avoid the strike action that's happening down that road.
That's right.
The nurses have already said to them, we'll settle for half of what we were asking for to try and speed the negotiations up. Bonnie King disaster.
Thanks,
Right, another thing Siobhan wanted us to mention the chain of freedom.
Yes.
Right. And that's the name of our new Facebook group, folks. He's trying to organise a chain of people from the west of Scotland to the east of Scotland, from Glasgow to Edinburgh, and a human chain in protest against their democracy being denied. Now, we know that human chains for democracy have happened right across the planet.
Yeah.
And they can be quite effective.
Yeah.
And it should be timed. I hope Siobhan's watching. She hopes she times it for when there's some of these bampots within that road sauntering up here to tell us how they think it should be. But it's a great idea. If you join the Facebook group, you'll find a way there to actually register with your email address, because they do have to get the numbers right, and they've got to be able to, for policing and medical and maybe even liability insurance, they do need you to register at the website.
Yeah.
And it's been organised by Siobhan and Judith Reid. Judith can be quite a wee buzzbomb when she puts her mind to something. And they've asked to come on and talk about it, David, so we'll try to get that organised for next week sometime. Okay.
The great idea about this is it's not the typical march that's going through Glasgow or whatever, right? The idea is to create a solid human chain from one side of the country to the other side of the country, utilising what is the old bike. It's the bike route that goes via the canals, isn't it? Goes along the Clyde and whatever.
It runs up the Steel cycle path. It runs right through my village, actually, so it's an easy one for me to join.
And the idea is, yet again, raises the whole question of why are all these people out? Well, get talking. Whilst doing that, get talking. I think it's a great idea. It's a publicity stunt. All right.
That was a point that was being listed there, which was being made there. Problem is, will the UK government-owned media report on that human chain? I think they will. I think, but more importantly, I think the international press will pick up on it a lot.
Yeah.
It just takes a couple of emails fired to the right directions to get the international community to look at it. And one of the best ways to do that is to contact EU for Scottish independence. There is a group. Yeah. And they have got links in every single country in the 27. And that will be able, that means that it will make it into at least 27 nations worth of media right away.
Here's an idea. What about the lovely lassie for CNN? What's her name? I forget the lassie's name, right? Dark hair and all the rest of it, right?
I don't know what CNN.
No, she was here during COP26, and she basically adopted Scottish. She loves it, right? Now, I know for a fact Robert Bruce has got her on Twitter. Write to her and tell her about this, you know.
Aye.
So, and she'll probably come Scotland across here with a big CNN crew. So the Americans get to hear about it.
I'm afraid I can't approve of that one. Somebody's recommending that we do 70,000 doo-doos and throw them at the BBC. That's Chris. Chris, I'm sorry, I can't recommend that people do that. I'd love to recommend it, but I can't. I don't want 70,000 people marching through the streets of Glasgow with bags of crap. Reminiscent of the 80s, the people were on smack.
Please don't do that, because at some point somebody is just going to have to clean it up. And it won't be the people that you want to really throw the jobbies at. All right, something as that.
Quentin, we do need a TV channel, but unfortunately Westminster issues the licenses, and as David will tell you, we've already tried.
Yeah.
Gordon Ross has managed to get a slot on one of the digital channels, ITV, but that's what's on it, is Gordon, as far as
it's not doing anything. That's the problem, it's not doing anything.
John, the human chain thing does have 6,000 members so far. At the end of the day, it'll have at least 6 because I'll be joining.
Yeah, and me.
So if you're already on the Chain to Freedom Facebook page, you don't have to interact, but just get in there, find yourself the link, register by your email address, and then watch out for the date being announced.
Well, plus the fact you've got to discount David and I, because David will be walking along the line with his camera phone on that day at the Lanarkshire side, and I'll be at the Bowling side. I'll be walking along it.
I don't think it's going to be that far out, David. I think it's going to be running for the city centre where it joins the cycle park there.
I'll do in the way from that. So.
Yeah. If we were younger and fitter, we could have walked in and met each other somewhere in the middle, like, in Bayless or something.
I'll be coming on a stretcher, carried by 6 Gregorian monks. Don't you know? Excuse me, would you like to say a few words here?
So we're going to get Siobhan and Judith on at some point. I'll speak to Siobhan on Monday about it. I meant to have a word with Norrie and all. We need to have a word with Norrie.
Yeah.
Get him on to tell us about Caledon Media. He's doing no bad. He made it into the national the other day there. He seems to have a bigger international listenership than what he has home-based listeners. People in Canada and America and the Nordic countries interested in what's going on here in Scotland. So they tune into Norries.
Ali Watson's put up an interesting thing. We need drones in the air to cover the chain. Unfortunately, Ali, there's part of that chain that will go right past Glasgow Airport and all the rest of it. So
it's the other side of the coin, David, but when you get to the far end towards Edinburgh, you couldn't have the drones up.
Aye, yeah. So it's maybe something that might be difficult.
But I mean, something like Wild Ducks should be able to do it here in Lanarkshire,
Yeah,
get a good view of the chain.
I really do think that it would be a lovely thing for somebody to actually do a drone shot right along the line.
Aye.
So that's...
I mean, as long as you keep the drones down below 250 feet anyway, if it's a licensed drone pilot, it shouldn't be a problem, David.
Yeah.
I believe that the Wild Ducks are a licensed drone pilot.
Well, I remember for a few years I used to complain about why don't we have a pipe band at the front of the march, and everybody, it's too difficult, all the rest of it, right? And eventually we ended up with a pipe band at the front of the march, and this one, let's start seeing who would possibly do a drone flight, or maybe get a few people together that have got drones to actually cover sections of it, so the whole thing can get pieced together as a single piece of footage covering the entire line, and that would be wonderful.
Well, Chris, if we don't get enough people, that would be a great way to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Because what you do is you have them 1.5 meters apart, like that salt tire up there, holding on to salt tires all the way along the chain.
Yeah, correct. Good. Yeah.
So, Siobhan, keep that one in mind, because in that case you only need 30,000 people. 30,000 salt tires, of course. No, 15,000 salt tires, 30,000 people.
You would find enough salt tires, don't worry.
Well, I have a dozen. I don't know about you.
Yes, I have a few.
Sarah's got one in her purse at all times and all. She did a Mrs. Salmon. She's got a salt tire in her bag all the time.
No country in the history of mankind has to ask for independence. In actual fact, yes, they have, but to be honest with you, the situation where we have no democracy,
they've all ended up taking it, and most of them obtained it through a democratic election of some sort or another.
That's right, and I think that's coming to us. I think the point where we follow the law is conscripted is prescripted by Westminster, and that blooming bunch down the road is coming to an end, where the people of Scotland are just going to go, no, that's what you want us to do? No, you don't. Right, we're off. And that's it. That's what it's going to come to.
That's another way to bring Westminster to his knees. And to bring Westminster forward with a Section 30 order sharp as fuck. Call a Scottish general strike. Shut the oil and gas fields down. Shut the power plants down.
Aye. Yeah. That would be wonderful. In actual fact, that, of all things, would have a very powerful effect on Westminster.
Chris, on that particular day when it comes to the chain, I think what will happen is the ND2 cafe will go mobile. They'll do a section with teas and coffees and rolls out the back of a motor, and then move along another mile to the teas and coffees, and another mile to the teas and coffees that way.
Chris, you know the cheap package tour that you wish you hadn't bought, and it's like out come the hostesses with a wee trolley that runs up and down. That's what the ND2 did. They'll be running down the line. Yeah, cup of coffee? Aye, right, okay, there.
Apparently the UK government blocked Sinn Féin's from talks over the Northern Ireland protocols. That's interesting.
That is interesting, yes.
And apparently
the CNN reporter is not Christine Amanpour, and if I can ask Robert Bruce, he'll put up the name of the lassie I'm talking about. Lovely lass, really. I've spoken to her online a few times, but I'm no longer on Twitter.
Gordon, you're absolutely correct. At this point in time, that the marches are made up with core people, about 3,000 people, and it's all the same people all the time. It's the same people I've been marching with for 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah.
It's the same people that started the marches and protests in the west of Scotland. It's for the same people. I go on these marches, I see the same people. It's one of the reasons why Stu and I go. You've all become such friends. You know, whereas others have given up on it. But it'll come back. They'll come back.
Right, we are over time here, David.
Aye, so we are.
So, this time I've got through it without wanting to go to bed, so I'm all right.
You're not drunk at the end of this one, right at the end of the last one. I was going to phone your wife and tell her to test your blood sugar, sure. So, I must tell everybody, I've got a set of 2 sets of really, really scary stairs to go down. David will tell you about that, right? And it's like going down that like a drunk man, I can assure you, it wasn't a good idea. It was just as well you put the handrails up, because I'll tell you what, they are bloody scary. You're bloody vertigo going down these things. And up them. Right, I hope you found the show informative today, folks. I know it was more a casual chat on all the situations that are going on, but that's what we're trying to achieve, is a casual chat about what's going on. When there's something really big that we want to cover, then we'll cover it intensely, and we'll probably rant a wee bit about it. But we try to make it as relaxed as possible. You know?
Yeah, it's, when we get something really to get our teeth into, we'll start to pull it in, and we'll build a program round about that, and we'll advertise.
I think our topic, the way we have in the past, we'll build it around one topic. And we'll put up the whiteboard and all the stupid slides and all that stuff. It's all within our scope now. We just don't do it. We want it to be more relaxed, more casual. We want to be able to interact with you guys.
Yeah, we could do an impromptu program tonight if a few of you could find Rishi Sunak and get him up in our cabin. We'll gaffer tape him at the seat.
I don't worry, Johnny. I'll be keeping that light on for democracy. In fact, that's another wee idea. See, every Thursday when we go live, folks, until it becomes summer, towards the end of the show, do us a favour, light a wee candle and stick it in the window. That way, when your neighbours ask each Thursday why you're putting that wee candle in the window for an hour, you'll be able to say, we're shining a light for democracy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's another one that we could all do, is when we're on our show on a Thursday afternoon, put a wee candle in your window.
Yeah.
light a candle for democracy. And when your neighbours ask you about it, because they've all noticed that you'll get a candle lit every Thursday afternoon between 3 and 4, especially when it gets daylight, they will ask you about it, and you will be able to then speak to them about it. Right, when I go round this up, David, I've got a dog to walk, and I've got work to get to, so we're there.
Yeah.
So I hope you found today's show interesting and informative, folks. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button. You'll get notified when we're going to go live. If you're on Facebook, give me 5 minutes when I've finished this to change the settings of this to public, and then please share it across your social media platforms if you find it interesting enough. Okay. That just leaves us one thing to do, David.
Bye, Davey.
Bye, Davey.